Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Friday, April 1st, so for those that take part in it, happy April Fool's Day. Once again, the Maxi-Geek Show is sponsored by Rig Gaming. This is the lovely HS700 headset that I'm wearing. I say this every episode and I'm going to keep saying it. They are the best headsets around for comfort, for quality, for battery life, and more importantly for price. So if you are looking for a good quality headset, these are the ones that you need to be getting. There's been some big news this week, been some slow news, and obviously because this is now the first of the month, there is a bunch of new games coming to the various platforms, so we will go through all those as well, alongside some news about some events that have been taking place. But first we're going to start with some weird news. So, overnight, Star Wars owners Lucasfilm and Disney have announced that the premiere date of Obi-Wan Kenobi is moving from May 25th and will now air on May 27th, 2 days later. The announcement came out via a video with series star Ewan McGregor confirming the 2-day delay, but the reveal of the delay also came with a bit of good news in that there will be 2 episodes premiering on the same day. So it'll be a 2-episode premiere now, not 1. But again, it will be 2 days later than planned. And the reason why it's 2 days later than planned is because Star Wars Celebration, which takes place usually sort of every year, every 2 years, now sort of permanently in Anaheim, California, is happening from the 26th through to the 29th, the Thursday through the Sunday. So just because they wanted to put this as part of the show, they delayed the premiere for the rest of the world for 2 days to accommodate, 4,000 people that are going to be at this event. So not 4,000 people at the event total, but 4,000 people in the room for the event, I mean. So if you were looking forward to watching it on the Wednesday, you now have to wait 2 more days just because they wanted to pad their lineup inside of a convention that, 99% of the world never gets to go to because they never do them outside of the US, outside of that one single London show that they did. So yeah, I'll be honest, it's an utterly despicable move from Disney and Lucasfilm, delaying this 2 days just to accommodate, essentially what is a premiere or a launch party, a watch party, whatever, at a show that that diehard Star Wars fans are going to. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've got entire shelves of Star Wars stuff behind me, but I just can't justify spending $3,000 on flights and a couple of $1,000 on hotels and then tickets to get into the event, right? And then all the general day-to-day finances that go along with traveling, just to see a few Star Wars things. It's not cost effective, right? So in order to make the people that are going feel even more special, more privileged, they're delaying the premiere by 2 days. They could have still kept it on the 25th and had a special event during the show. That would have made sense. But now they're just delaying it for everyone. So yeah, it's one of those things where it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been delayed that way because, again, it just doesn't help anybody. It just hurts those people that were looking forward to it. And I know it's only a 2-day delay, and in the grand scheme of what's happening in the world, a 2-day delay is not a big thing. But it's a 2-day delay, not because they're afraid of offending an entire country like Nintendo with their Advance Wars delay, but they're just wanting to bolster their own lineup for their own event where the show was going to be front and center anyway. So it's one of those things that just doesn't make sense the way they've done it. But yeah, so pretty shitty move, but yeah, so May 27th will be the premiere date now instead of May 25th. Moving on, we actually got the reveal of a new One Piece game earlier in the week. So One Piece Odyssey is an all-new RPG coming from, what's their name? ILCA, ILCA Inc. They're the people that did the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remake for Nintendo last year. So the Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So I'm just going to put this trailer up here as I talk. So this is coming to Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. So Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, PS5, and PC. And it's sort of it's a more traditional sort of Final Fantasy sort of inspired turn-based battler. You know, as is always the case with these games, the Straw Hat pirate crew have found themselves on another new island that is unknown, which is honestly becoming the biggest joke around. You know, anytime they do something, they end up on another unknown island. But yeah, so it's a full-on RPG. We don't know much more beyond that, unfortunately, because, you know, they've only just announced it is due out later this year. We know that, but we don't know anything about the combat or, you know, the overall story. There is a new character, there you can see him there, that will join the crew at some point. And the original anime cast from Japan are all involved in recording, you know, all the new dialogue for the game. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest One Piece fan. I've tried starting the show, but, you know, a lot of you know, anime, especially, you know, these long-running series, they tend to be very you know, drawn out at times. You know, Dragon Ball Z they sort of did an ultra cut of that to sort of trim down all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, again, if you're watching the footage here, it does look, you know, amazing. It's actually, they revealed this during a big One Piece anniversary stream where they debuted a trailer for the new movie and a whole bunch of other things. So yeah, I think it looks fine. It'll probably play amazing. You know, the sort of last couple of games we've had from One Piece have been more around the Warriors, you know, design ethos, where, you know, you play as Monkey, as Luffy, and you're just punching 1,000 enemies at once. So the fact that this doesn't sort of have that, it's more focused, does look pretty cool. They did release a developer interview as well, so you can learn a bit more about it. You know, and they put out some concept art, you know, which, you know, again, it's very early in the design. Very early in the design. It's very early in the sort of the build-up for this one, so there's still a lot more that we have to learn about it. But as I said, it is due out later in the year. But that's all we know. We don't know any sort of specific window. But I wouldn't put this one any earlier than October, just because it's one of those things where, you know, I can't see them doing it any earlier than that. With the good news like that, we have to do a bit of bad news. And that is that E3 2022 is not happening at all. So back in January, the ESA, the Electronic Software Association, they're sort of the group that run E3. Think of them kind of like the sort of the controlling group for the USA video game market. They, you know, they're the ones that put the show on every year. They announced that the in-person show would not happen because this is basically when Omicron was starting to you know, to gain traction, where the cases were starting to spike around the world. So they made the call back in January to not do an in-person event in June. And they didn't say back then if they were, or, you know, if they had plans to or not plans to do a digital event like they did last year. But they announced this morning, very early this morning, they were not going to do it. That there would be no digital presentation at all, you know, from them this year. So there is no E3 2022. Obviously, we didn't have an E3 in 2020, but that's because, you know, the pandemic hit in March. I had my flights booked, my hotel was all booked, so I was all set to go for that year. And obviously that didn't happen. So this is the first year where they've actually cancelled it, you know, well ahead of time, you know, leading into things. So the only sort of thing that we do know is that they've said, you know, they'll be back in 2023 with an in-person event. They did have plans in 2021. They sort of wanted to redo the in-person event to make it a little more appealing for you know, folks to come and visit. Turn it into more like a PAX style, you know, show. It was never that. E3 was never built to be that type of event, and their pivot to it has been, you know, in you know, millimeters, not you know, meters. So it is sad that, you know, that's not happening this year. Jeff Keighley's already popped up and said the Summer Games Fest is happening, which I really wish that guy would learn not to call things a Summer Game Fest when, you know, half the planet's not in summer when that runs. But, you know, you can call it whatever he wants. He's just, you know, needs to be smarter about it. We've already got confirmation that the Day of the Devs, which is something that Double Fine run. It's basically sort of a hour-long showcase for indie developers. They can submit their games to Double Fine. So hey, this is what we're working on. And it's not like the Mix event that just happened the other week where they just, oh, here's 90 indie games and just go for 5 hours. No, they sort of curate a list of indie developers, indie titles from what the submissions are. And they sort of say, hey, these are the ones that we're really excited about that you need to pay attention to. So that is happening sometime in June as part of Summer Game Fest. But if you're looking beyond that, Gamescom at the end of August, usually sort of the last full weekend of August. I believe this year is the 24th is the starting day. That'll be back in person and, online again. And then obviously Tokyo Game Show in September for one that's more time zone relevant, but perhaps not language relevant. But yeah, so E3 is not happening this year at all, which, it's a bit of a sad thing. It's sort of one of those big milestone events, in the calendar, but it is what it is. But speaking of events that are happening this year, the Madman Anime Festival is back, sort of. So, what has been announced by Crunchyroll is that So the Crunchyroll Expo was formerly a Los Angeles exclusive event, and the Melbourne is going to be their first international expansion. And that's just because it is a rebranding of essentially what was the Madman Anime Festival. So it's a bit of it's a really complicated route to how we got there. But so Madman, who if you're an anime fan in Australia, you probably know the name. They got bought out years ago by Fantastic, who make a lot of toys. Once sort of Fantastic said, hey, look, you're not making enough money for us anymore. Madman, the folks behind who started Madman, went and got more money themselves, bought out the company, and then they started growing it, and that's how we got Anime Lab. So Anime Lab was one of the very first streaming services to offer anime exclusively. It was also one of the very first ones in Australia that didn't suck. If you can recall back to the early days of Stan, that was like a 480p stream at most. Foxtel Go was horrendous, probably still is because it's Foxtel. But yeah, so it was a very very short window of things, and then Madman signed a deal with Funimation to get the Funimation content into Anime Lab and started sort of gaining traction. And then back in 2019, Aniplex, which is one of the bigger brands out of Japan, bought a minority share in Madman, and then eventually they bought majority share. And then Aniplex is owned by Sony. Sony Consumer something or other. It's not the PlayStation arm. It's not the movie arm. It's not the music arm. It's a different group. But they bought out Madman fully, or via Aniplex. They also then bought out Crunchyroll, and then they bought out Funimation like 8 months after Crunchyroll. And then a few months ago, they announced that all the Funimation content would move to Crunchyroll. So basically, if you want to watch anime, you've got to go to Crunchyroll or Netflix for the half a dozen shows that they have there. That's how we sort of got to this point where we now have a Crunchyroll Expo coming to Australia. It's going to be the same basic format as the Madman Anime Festival, because it's just run by the same people. It's just going to have a different name attached to it. So they've not released any details about ticket prices or anything like that, or when tickets will go on sale. We do know that the event will be happening on September 7th to 9th. Sorry, 17th. My apologies. I knew there was a 7 in it. But yeah, so they're going to have panels. They'll have voice artists, from Japan and from like the US coming. The usual sort of thing that these sort of events have. Beyond that, we really don't know any other details because it's still very early days for this. I do know the Madman anime festivals were quite popular. They did spin them up in both Perth and Brisbane to give people in those parts of the country a chance to to attend something to celebrate what they enjoy. Obviously, with the pandemic and things like that, they didn't do them the last couple of years, so this will be the first year that's sort of back again. So it just has a different name this time around. Now, for something a little different. So Fallout 76 has been, pushing along for years and years now, and as being reported here by OzGamers, Double 11, they're the studio behind the Rust series, specifically the console versions of Rust. They've been picked up sort of as a development partner by Bethesda Game Studios to help, content for Fallout 76. So the guys here at OzGamers sat down with Mark Tucker, the design director from Fallout 76, and said that this is happening, and then the Double 11 guys confirmed it and said that they are doing it. There's obviously no word on what the content is or anything like that, but given that these guys have had a lot of time, a lot of passion with Rust over the years, expect something very, very good. The interesting thing is that Double 11 as a developer have done a lot of things over the years. So they also did work on Minecraft Dungeons recently as well. They're not a big well-known studio, but they've done a lot of work. So if we're looking at their games history, they did a lot of stuff for Prison Architect. They also did the ports for Lego Harry Potter to Switch and Xbox a couple of years ago, and the PS4 like 12 months before that. They've done some Little Big Planet content for Vita. So they've done a lot of things in a lot of different genres, but this is the first sort of time they're hitting, not hitting the big leagues like an insulting way, but their name's attached to now sort of a well-known IP. I'm not saying Lego Harry Potter is a bad thing. I'm just saying in terms of ongoing things, Fallout 76 is sticking around for a while, and who knows? Maybe the sequel to that will just be Fallout 77. So, yeah. Now, as this is, an Australian-focused show, we have to talk about some of the Australian-focused news. And one of them is that the DC Universe program is finally coming to Australia. In fact, it launched earlier this week. So DC Universe Infinite is a program where you pay a yearly subscription fee, or a monthly subscription fee if you prefer, and you get access to like 25,000 comics. So, the reason why this is important at the moment is because for the first 30 days, basically up until the end of April 28th is the cutoff date, if you subscribe and pay for a full year's membership, it'll be $64.99 Australian or $64.99 New Zealand. So the same listed dollar amount, just obviously conversions for things like that will be slightly different. The reason why it's important is not because you're just saving $35 off the usual $100 membership. It's because if you subscribe and pay your $65, anytime in the first 28 days of April, you are locked in for that price for the entire duration of your membership. So, if you sign up today, for this service, you pay $65, you're done for 12 months. April 1st rolls around next year, you're charged for another 12 months, $65. So if you pay now, you lock in that price for the length of time you stay with the program. If you do it on April 29th, then you have to pay $100. You never get the discount. Again, they are offering it monthly, so it's $10 a month if you choose to pay monthly. Obviously, you're saving a lot of money if you choose to go, via the yearly subscription, especially in these first 30 days. You're essentially, instead of paying $10 a month, you're paying $5. 40 something a month, so it's almost half price. There are exclusive comics that are made for the service. The print comics all come to it. They generally have a limited time run in print first. So it's one of those things. The apps are on both iOS and Android. So yeah, I'm not signing up for it because I just don't read enough comics. I'd love to, but I never get enough time to do it because, it's one of those things where I just wish I had more time. But speaking of time, Nintendo announced earlier in the week that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel, which is still untitled, is being delayed out of 2022 and will now release sometime in the autumn of 2023. Obviously, autumn for 2023 is for the Australian region. If I say autumn 2023 and you live in North America and you're seeing this, or the UK, that would be your spring. There's Anuma-san there looking very spiffy. I think the last time we saw him, he was wearing a hoodie and a blue t-shirt, so it's been a while. But yeah, so while they did say they were aiming for 2022, which generally means for when they do these things sort of in November, that was initially what they said, but they're also aiming for a 2021 at some point and a 2020 as well. So these things always take time. It's just a generic announcement delay video that they've done. Nothing fancy. There's a couple of new shots of footage in here though, so some people will have gotten very excited about that. But yeah, so at minimum, we're seeing if the game was aiming for a November release, we're going from a November to say March 1st. That's a 3.5-4 month delay. Or if it's going for the end of the autumn period, which is what we're in now, could release at the end of May. So, we're looking, say, minimum 4 months, maximum 6 months. So yeah, it's not a huge delay. It's obviously not the best, news that, they are delaying this again. But if we're being honest, it's a Nintendo mainline Zelda game. They always get delayed. They've not released one on time since, I want to say, Wind Waker. But even then, I think that was delayed slightly as well. So, but Twilight Princess didn't release as planned because they delayed it to launch it with the Wii. Obviously, Skyward Sword got delayed a bit. Breath of the Wild was, a Wii U game. It was supposed to get that Wii U only. And by the time that actually did launch, the Switch was around, so they put it on both. So yeah, it's not surprising this has been delayed because they tend to do it quite often with the Zelda games. But hey, they sort of knocked it out of the park with the first one in Breath of the Wild. If they do the same with its sequel, more time is best. This is sort of interesting. This is like the third or fourth time we've seen this sort of video from Nintendo where they're doing these delay announcements. Because we also got not the reboot, but the starting up again announcement for Metroid Prime, and development shifting back to retro. That was 3 years now. So it's been a while. But yeah, it's just one of those things where Nintendo don't generally do announcement delays like this. They'll just announce the delay via a message. But for this particular one, they opted to do it that way, which is fine. So, given that, E3 is not happening, I said when I posted these earlier in the week that, we might see something at E3 2022 because Nintendo do like to do directs during E3. They may opt to put this as part of their June Direct rather than calling it an E3 Direct. They might just call it a June Direct, which is, not uncommon as well. Excuse me. But yeah, so it's one of those things where it's nice that they've told us, but again, it's only a couple of months, so we'll just have to wait and see how that goes, in the long run. Right, so now let's get into what's going on here in April, because we are in a new month and there are new games to enjoy. So at the start of every month, we put together here at Maxi-Geek a list of all the big games coming out in the month that you need to pay attention to. This list is not set in stone purely because games always get delayed. We put the list up at 1st of March. And then it was on the 2nd of March that Ubisoft announced The Settlers, which was due out on the 17th of March, was being delayed till later in the year. So even though we've listed them, there is a chance that some of these things may slip. Obviously, say the first two won't because, one of them's already available as part of early access. So it's just one of those funny things. But so April 5th, we'll see Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga hit on all consoles and PC. It's looking to be a fantastic Star Wars game, looking to be a fantastic Lego game. On the same day, if you don't do the early access for it, MLB The Show is releasing for all consoles, and that includes PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series X, S, and 1, and Switch. The big thing with this one is it is cross-play and cross-progression, so if you do have an Xbox One at home and you're part of Game Pass and you can enjoy the game for free as part of that membership, but if you have a Switch and you buy the game there, you can take your game with you, from the Xbox to the Switch. So if you're traveling somewhere, you can keep playing Seasons and Diamond Dynasty, building up your player's stats. When you get home, the save data uploads to the MLB account, downloads to your Xbox, you pick up where you left off, you're good to go. But it also means you'll be able to play with friends if they're on other platforms as well. Later in the week, so basically next Friday, we have Chrono Cross The Radical Dreamers Edition, which includes the original Chrono Cross remastered, along with the DLC only text-based story adventure. That is for Switch, PC, PS4, and Xbox One. It will work on Series X and S and PS5, but not enhanced for those platforms. Also on April 7th, we'll see House of the Dead Remake land on Switch. That looks like it's going to just be a fun, good light gun experience, which we haven't got a lot of these days. On April 12th, we'll see 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim come to Switch. The game is already out on PC and PS4. It's another one from Vanillaware, so it has this unique art style. It did very, very well when it launched on PS4, so it's not surprising to see Atlas and Sega bring it to Switch. On April 20th, Switch will see the release of Star Wars The Force Unleashed. This is the Wii version being ported across. Something that is very interesting this month is everything essentially is on Switch bar like 2 games. So, yeah, there you go. April 21st, we'll see Chernobylite come for next generation, so PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. The game is already on last generation Xbox and PlayStation and on PC. This is just enhanced for the next generation consoles. That is one of the non-Switch related games. On April 21st, we'll see MotoGP 22 release. Now it's coming to all platforms, so Switch, PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, S, and 1. The only catch if you're on Switch is there is no multiplayer or online. So one of the things obviously for all the other consoles and PCs that there's split screen, so you can enjoy playing with a friend on the couch, or you can jump online and compete, globally. The Switch has none of that. The Switch is just you racing in the championships. That's all you get. Obviously, you get all the other single-player modes, like the 2009 series and all that sort of stuff, but you don't get anything other than that. On April 26th, Zombie Army 4 Dead War comes to Switch. This is obviously a very gory thing, so YouTube has said, no, if you want to watch this, sign into YouTube to view the footage. This game has already come to every other console and PC as well. The Switch owners will get the first year of content, which is new maps, missions, and guns, and then Season 2 will be available to purchase separately. On April 26th, we see The Serpent Road come to Switch, PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S from Team 17 and a Ukrainian studio. And you'll have to forgive me, I've forgotten their name off the top of my head. Now, even though the developers are based in the Ukraine, they have said they've committed to releasing their game on this date because they don't want to, basically cave into the pressures of, Putin and his invasion. So they're going to stick to it. It is possible this game may slip because they are in essentially a war zone and things do happen. So this is one of those ones where I'm saying the date may not land. But, the game looks fantastic. I'll just play the trailer here just quickly. So it's just one of those ones where I just think it's going to be a fantastic, game. Because it's not a traditional thing. It's not something that most people will sort of, have experience with. But yeah, on April 28th, we'll see Kaiju Wars released for PC and Mac. This is essentially, Advanced Wars, Final Fantasy Tactics, that style of game. But you're the military and you have to take down kaijus. So Godzilla-like creatures, King Kong-type creatures, Mothra-type creatures, bears. There's a bear in here for some reason. So that's PC and Mac at the moment. It may come to other platforms in the future, but there's no plans for that yet. And then at the end of the month, on April 29th, we see the release of Nintendo Switch Sports, which, we got the reveal for that back in the February Direct, where they said that, we're getting six sports at launch, which is bowling, tennis, badminton, soccer, volleyball, and the worst thing they could ever put in there, Chambara, because that is an utterly boring experience. And then there'll be an update sometime in the autumn months where we'll get the soccer game will be updated to let you actually kick in the game instead of just in the scoring mode. And then later in the year there'll be another update that will add in golf as an additional game. So there's 6 at launch, 7 by the end of the year. So yeah, so they're the games coming this month. Like, it's not a very big month. There's only 12. Last month there were 26 games before one was delayed. This month there are 12. And apart from Kaiju Wars and Chernobylite, every game in this list is hitting Switch. You know, PS4, PS5, they've got a hand, you know, a couple from a hand sort of thing. But Switch is on all but 2. So it's kind of interesting, you know, that they've done it that way. Speaking of Switch, during the week we also got an update to the NES and Super NES apps for the Nintendo Switch Online. These are the first big updates that these two have had in like 9 months. The last updates were in July, not counting the additions of Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings on from the February Nintendo Direct. So for Super Nintendo, the new game that was added to this one was Earthworm Jim 2. Because why not? That makes complete sense to include the second game in a series, not the first game. So the NES games we got were Dig Dug, which is a sequel, and Mappyland, which is also a sequel. So all 3 games are sequels you know, but you know, I love the Earthworm Jim series. I think they're fantastic. Obviously, you know, back in the day they did a lot with cross promotions. They had a cartoon series, and gotta love Jim. And Dan Castellaneta was the voice of Jim in that cartoon series, and he's obviously the voice of Homer Simpson and various other characters. But yeah, so in for NES we got Dig Dug 2 and then Mappyland. But Super NES also got 2 additional games in the SP format. We got Super Mario World and Super Punch-Out. They basically just give you 100% save files. So if you've already played through most of Super Mario World, but you haven't quite unlocked all the alternates and everything and all the Star Road levels, that sort of gives you everything there. It is an interesting, you know, mix, and I said these are the first big updates that we've had on these platforms since July of last year. So they've definitely been a long time coming. Again, it's one of those weird things to get Earthworm Jim 2, but not the first one. I've said this every time they do it, you know, they need to have at least one big named game that people go, hey, I know that game, I'm excited to play it again. And then you throw in a few others, like Dig Dug and Earthworm Jim I know. I've never heard of Mappyland. So I'm excited to give that one a go to see what it's actually all about. Again, because this is the first, you know, at the start of a new month, the games with gold for April were announced the other day. So, as always with Xbox, they do things a little differently. There's 2 games for Xbox One and 2 games for Xbox 360. They will all work on your Xbox Series X or S. So if you have either an Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X or Series S, you can enjoy all 4 games, 2 of the games at least. And then if you don't have the Xbox 360, you can enjoy all 4 games on the others. As always too, the release cadence for these is very weird. So the full month game that players can enjoy is Another Sight, which is available now and running to the end of the month. At the moment, there is an existing game, and I can't think of what it is. I think it's a SpongeBob game. But from April 16 to May 15, players will get access to Hue, which is the other, Xbox One game. And then the Xbox 360 games is for the first half of the month. It is Outpost Galaxy X, which is a tycoon game, and then in the second half of the month is MX versus ATV Alive. So an interesting collection of games. You know, it's one of those things where I look at them and I go, none of those interest me. The lineup was the same last month. Nothing really interested me then either. The MX versus ATV, you know, it could be fun, but you know, there's 1,000 of those at the moment, and there's a new one coming from the same studio, you know, in May. So it's not as if they are very hard games to get. Another Spirit's on every other platform as well. It looks fine. It looks to be a nice puzzle, you know, mysterious puzzle sort of game. But I'm not chomping at the bit to play this one. So, but yeah. So, another lineup. These are available if you have Xbox Live Gold or Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is the one that gives you the Xbox games and the PC games. If you just have Game Pass without the Ultimate tag on it, you won't get these. So, As I said, it's an interesting lineup. I personally think it's a bit of an insulting lineup. There's nothing fancy, nothing. There's no one key game you go, oh my god, I have to get that one. That's fantastic. But you know, it is what it is. Looking at the PlayStation lineup, which was also announced during the week, this is slightly different because they announced some news and some good news and some bad news. So normally what we get for PlayStation Plus is we get one PS5 game and 2 PS4 games. Obviously the PS4 games will work on PS5, but if there is a PS4 version and a PS5 version of the game, we don't get the PlayStation 5 version. You don't get the enhanced version, you just get the backwards compatible version, right? This month they announced something different. So Hood, Outlaws and Legends, which is a PvPvE game, that is coming, it's sort of the big game. That's both PS5 and PS4. Excuse me. And on April 5th, when the game, when the collections go live, Season 3 of Hood, Outlaws and Legends will begin. So it'll be an entire season, new season's worth of content to start playing. Excuse me. Yeah, I think it's a fun looking game. I've had the chance to play it ever so briefly. I'm not a big multiplayer game fan because I like story, and unfortunately story and multiplayer never go well together. So yeah, it's sort of Robin Hood-esque in its sort of visual design. So it's castles and forests and such. You've got it's not a barbarian, but you've got like a strongman, you've got like a thief, a hunter, that sort of stuff. Yeah, so it's a fun game. PS4 players will get SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. So this is the one that we released like 2 years ago on all the platforms. This is coming to PS4 owners as part of PlayStation Plus for April. Interestingly, last month on Xbox there was a SpongeBob game as well, and there is a new SpongeBob game coming. So yeah, it's a bit of a SpongeBob renaissance in the gaming space at the moment. But PlayStation 4 players will also get Slay the Spire, which is a very, very much beloved game that people enjoy. So they're the games that are coming. The downside that we have for this month is that on May 11th, I have it at the top here in the story. So PlayStation 5 owners have access to what is called the PlayStation Plus Collection, which is a group of 20 titles that add, a good amount of titles to the console from the get-go. So you could buy the console and not pay any money for a single game, but if you have PlayStation Plus, you get God of War, Last of Us Remastered, Days Gone, Mortal Kombat, and a few others. One of the games currently available as part of that lineup is Persona 5. Now, these are all just PS4 games, so they may work and run a little bit better on PS5. They may look a little bit better and run better on PS5, but they're not PS5 enhanced versions. But on May 11th, Persona 5 is being removed from the collection. So if you have a PS5 and you've not added that game to your library yet, you will need to do that before May 11th, because once May 11th rolls around, that game will be removed from the collection, taking the number from 19 down to, from 20 to 19. As long as you have it as part of your PlayStation Plus collection, you can re-download it at any time. But on May 12, if you don't have it, you'll have to buy the game. It will not be available to you, even if you're an active PlayStation Plus member. Right? So it's very much like the Game Pass scenario where you only have the game for a limited time and then it'll eventually roll away. This is one of those where it's just being removed. But as long as you've added it to your library at some point, you can re-download it at any time in the future. Right? So as I said, it's good news. It's not, the biggest of news and everything for PlayStation Xbox fans. You're going to like the games or not. There's really not much that you can do differently. But it does lead into our big sort of topic for the week, and that's the PlayStation Plus enhancements. So one of the things that the PlayStation is doing is that they are bringing in a new overhaul to the PlayStation Plus program, offering up tiers of membership. So at the moment, the standard subscription, or the only subscription, is $79.95 a year, and that gets you PlayStation Plus online, access. So you play games online with friends. Free-to-play games like Fortnite are excluded. You don't need PlayStation Plus for that. But if you want to play Gran Turismo online, or you want to play, Call of Duty online, not Call of Duty Vanguard, but regular Call of Duty, you need PlayStation Plus. You also get access to things like cloud saves. So if you have an issue with your console, you have to send it off for repair. You can then download your save data from the cloud for games that support it. You also get exclusive discounts and offers and things like that as well as the 3 games a month that you get as part of your membership. It was more, but then they phased out the PS3 games a while ago, which made sense. And then when they brought the PS5 in, it went to 2. Then they brought the PS5 in and went back up to 3. So the big program change is that what they'll be doing somewhere in June is when this is going to go live. We don't have an exact date yet, but there'll be 3 tiers. So the base tier, which is what they're calling PlayStation Plus Essential, is going to be the same one that is currently available. So it's the same price. There's no price increase on that. There is a slight downgrade in the content being offered, in that there'll be 2 games a month going forward instead of 3. So there's no word if it's going to be, a PS4 and a PS5 game, or 2 PS4 games, or, a game that's enhanced for both platforms. We don't know yet. We just know that it'll be 2 games. Okay. The second plan, or second tier, is what they're calling PlayStation Plus Extra. And then the third one is what they're calling PlayStation Plus Premium. So the reason why they're doing these tiers is because they'll be offering a little more in each of them. So we don't have local pricing yet. So I will give the US pricing because we know that. And then what my translation to the local pricing should be, but they're not confirmed prices. So at the moment, PlayStation Plus for the US is $9.99. So the current sort of plan. And then PlayStation Plus for Australia is $11.95 per month, or $80 a year. Okay, and that gets you your discounts, your cloud saves, multiplayer access, and your 2 free games a month. If you upgrade to PlayStation Plus Extra, which is the middle tier, that one gets you all those same bonuses from PlayStation Plus Essential, but it adds in 400 PS4 and PS5 games. So PlayStation have they've said, including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners, games in the extra tier are downloadable for play. So this is very much like Xbox Game Pass, in that there'll be a library of games that you can go in and say, hey, my God, they've got this game in here that I've wanted to play. Let's say it's Star Wars Squadrons, right? So if you have this membership on PlayStation, you can just go in and download the game to your console, play it for as long as it remains available, and you're good to go. We don't know what the library is. They have just said there's 400 games for both PS4 and PS5. We do know they'll be adding things like Miles Morales into it, which is not currently available, like the Spider-Man Miles Morales expansion, standalone expansion. But they've not listed anything, concrete beyond some of the PlayStation Plus collection titles already available. Now, that is priced at $14.99 US, so 50% more than what the essential plan is. So if we take that same logic and just add 50% to our $12 a month plan for PlayStation Plus Essential here in Australia, that would be $18 a month for PlayStation Plus Extra, or roughly $120 a year. So instead of $80 a year for the basic PlayStation Plus, for access to, say, 400 additional games that you can download at any time and play, you're paying an extra $40 a year, roughly. Again, not a confirmed price, just some math. What is interesting, though, is the premium tier. So PlayStation Plus Premium adds in everything you get from the other 2 tiers. So your online access, your 2 free games a month, and your library 400, but it adds in a catalog, what they're calling a catalog of beloved classics available in both streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation Portable platforms. Again, we don't know how many are here. All right, we don't know, if it's 50 PS1 games or if it's 500 PS1 games. The only thing that we need to sort of highlight is in the official PlayStation blog post and PlayStation US websites, they have confirmed that PlayStation 3 games will also be available via cloud streaming onto the platform, right? PlayStation Australia have confirmed that there is no PS3 games coming here at this time, because there's no cloud streaming technology for PlayStation in Australia. They offer something similar in the US called PlayStation Now, which is essentially merging PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus together to make this new offering. But because we don't have that here, we've never had that here. They're not marketing that as something coming to Australia. So for PlayStation Plus or PlayStation owners in Australia, they'll get PlayStation Plus Premium, which will give them PS1, PS2, PSP, PS4, and PS5, excluding PS3. So the only other platform they're missing from that is Vita. So if they add Vita in the future and somehow either give us cloud streaming here or decide to actually just let us download PS3 games to the platform, that means, if you have a PS5, you could enjoy, every generation of PlayStation consoles on that with the PlayStation Plus Premium tier. That is a confusing, collection of words there. PlayStation Plus Premium. The PlayStation Plus Premium for the US is $19.99. So it is, it's double the price of the Essential plan. So if we do that, if we just double it here, so we're going from $12 to essentially $26, $27 here per month, or $180 a year. Now, if we have to compare this to Xbox Game Pass, which does give you Xbox One, some Xbox 360 titles as part of the Games with Gold, and obviously Xbox Series X and S, you're getting more platforms here in the PlayStation Plus Premium offering. But instead of paying, $16, $17 a month, you're paying an extra $10 a month for these additional platforms. Who knows if that's going to be beneficial in the long run, if people are going to really enjoy that. Or if it's just going to be something they just don't care about. I personally think it could offer, big value. Because it's one of those things where if they have the right games that people want, then it could do very, very well for them. Unfortunately, PlayStation have already tried something like this. Not this thing, but they've tried offering a product with games in the past, with the PS1 Mini, and it failed. Because, it didn't have the games people wanted. Obviously, they wanted things like Tony Hawk, but Tony Hawk had licensing issues with music and all that sort of stuff, and it just wasn't worth their effort to get that. But when you have a console library of 1,000 games, and you pick 20, and people go, "Hey, you've given me like 8 games that I do not care about at all," that's why it didn't really take off. What it means though for us here in Australia, as I said, is they're looking to launch this service in June, but they're not committed to it here yet because they're sort of rolling it out in regions first. We don't know if we're going to be included in that first launch here in Australia and New Zealand. We might be, but we don't have the cloud functionality. So one of the big things for the premium tier obviously is the PS3 games via cloud only, but on PS4, PS1, PS2, and PSP, you can cloud stream those in the US as well. So what it means is that you don't have to download any of the games to your platform. You can just play them remotely. Whether or not they do something like Xbox and add this functionality to so I can stream it to my phone and play Medieval or Crash Bandicoot or what have you from the PS1, I don't see that happening. It'd be cool, but I don't see it happening. But without the cloud technology here, we're sort of the pricing. As I said, they have not announced pricing for Australia yet because we're not getting one of the platforms. The other thing too is that they have said they'll do game trials in that tier. So if you want to have the first 5 hours of hands-on time with, say, Horizon Forbidden West before it gets added to the thing 12 months later, you get to sort of try before you buy as part of it. They're not going to be constantly adding things to it, but it's going to be very much like the EA Play platform, where there'll be limited time trials for some of the titles, and then your save data will roll over to the full ones. The one thing that Jim, I've forgotten his name now, he's the head of PlayStation. I cannot think of it for the life of me. But the one thing that he said is that this is not going to be like Xbox. So with the deal with Xbox, you're paying your $18 a month for access to all these games on PC, Xbox, One, Xbox Series X, S, and even mobile phone via the cloud. Day one you'll get Halo, Forza Motorsport when that comes out, all the new games from Xbox. All right, so the big one later in the year is Starfield from Bethesda. That's launching on November 11th for PC and Xbox Series X and S, and that'll be a Game Pass day one, title. So what that means is that if you're already paying your $18 a month, you don't have to pay any extra for, you don't have to buy that game. PlayStation have already ruled that out, saying they will not be doing anything similar to that. So you might get a 5-hour trial for Horizon, down south or whatever the third entry is called. You might get a limited time trial available for it, but you won't get the full game. If you want that, you still have to pay for it. So in terms of what I see the value is, I see the value being as PlayStation Plus Extra, unless you're a diehard PlayStation fan. If you're someone that has grown up with PlayStation, that you had a PS1 when you were very young and you played the hell out of it, PS2, PSP, if you went down that road, this has a lot of nostalgic history, very similar to how the NES and Super NES apps on the Switch do for me, as someone who grew up with those platforms. So if you're someone who has that desire to play those classic games, then the premium tier is going to be the one that you want to look at. But if you're someone who just wants a good, solid collection of games to play, and you're looking not to spend more than $20 a month, then the extra tier, the middle tier, is the one for you, because it offers, as I've said, 400 games on PS4 and PS5, but doesn't put any more above that. So yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's very cool that they're essentially catching up to Xbox in this regard. I just don't know if the value in premium is there for a casual fan. Personally, I don't see myself going up from the Essential, because I don't really play games online. I only really do so if I have to review a game. Because I'm constantly playing games for review, I don't really get a chance to, spend 60, 70, 80 hours over a period of a month, playing the latest game online to level up a character. So yeah, for me, I'm going to stick with Essential for now. Obviously, the downgrade of games is a bit of a letdown, but at the same time, if they're adding 400 additional ones for an extra, $5, $6 a month, it could be beneficial to go down that road as well. But yeah, so that is really all the news that we have this week. There is obviously more news, that we do have to share. Over the weekend, there was a lot of stories that did come out from New Game Plus Expo. There's some Forza Horizon 5 updates as well. We've got a whole bunch more, regular news to get through as well. So there's still more to come. But if you're someone who enjoys looking at that, then be sure to check out Maxi-Geek.au. So it's M-A-X-I Geek. So MAXIGEEK.au. That's our new Australian domain address. That'll just redirect you to the main site. And you can read all our reviews, see the news that we share, along with the bargain guides that we put up. So we just put up one the other day for Nintendo Switch Sports. That is a very discounted game already. And if you're going digital route, you can save even more dollars. So it's one of those ones where it's going to be very fun. But yeah, so we have everything there on the site. We do have a Discord. We'll put the link for that in the show notes when this goes up on YouTube. We're also on the social medias, so Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, if you're there. We're also in Google News and Apple News as well, so you can follow us there if you get your information via those news apps. Otherwise, this is it for us for this week for the Maxi-Geek show. We'll be back next Friday at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, because we're rolling off daylight savings this weekend. Once we have, we're back, it'll be 7 p.m. essentially Brisbane time, which will be the same as Melbourne or Sydney next week. But before then, on Tuesday, we'll be back with the next installment of our James Bond series, where we're playing through all the console James Bond games. At the moment, we're currently playing through James Bond Everything or Nothing. We're playing through on the GameCube. This is the one that has Pierce Brosnan's voice and likeness, along with Willem Dafoe, Judi Dench, John Cleese, Heidi Klum, Shannon Elizabeth. There's a whole bunch of people in this one. Yeah, so we're playing through that. Playing through those games as part of the series. After that one, we'll be on to From Russia with Love, which is Sean Connery, one of his more iconic Bond outings. It's a very popular one. He actually came back in and recorded all new dialogue as James Bond for that game, because they had to obviously, take what was a 2-hour movie and make it, a 15, 16-hour game. So, we'll be back on Tuesday for that one, again at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So we do 7 p.m. streams for all going forward. So, hopefully we'll see you around for that one. If not, we'll be back next Friday for the next episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Who knows what news awaits us next week? But until then, happy gaming.